Hey everyone, it's actually not that early. I just didn't get much sleep. So, I've been thinking a lot about ergonomics and doing a bit more research because I'm looking for the next version of Signum, um, and I want to make sure I make it right. This foray into horizontally staggered keyboards has really kind of opened my eyes to the ergonomics a lot more. So I did kind of a little bit more of a study and some more research and have been figuring out some stuff that I hope to incorporate into the next build and that I hope that you can incorporate today. So, excuse me, I have some notes here because there's a lot of talks things, words, and I want to make sure I cover everything. So one YouTube comment had reminded me of the possibility of thumb keys. And thumb keys, I'm sorry, it was kind of tearing down the thumb hole. And that's, I'm going to post his name. It was good. It was good back and forth because it reminded me that on the Corvus build, just lying around here on the don't break Corvus build, which was my first vertically staggered build, I had inner thumb keys. So thumbs would rest here. See, right there. And then I would have a thumb key, an inside thumb key, and then also an outside thumb key. And that was just a design I was trying to figure out because, and I've got a blog post on it talking about the journey to Corvus. This is Corvus, and it was quite a journey to get there. But Corvus had some problems, and I think with this new ergonomic information, I've solved what the problem was. So from Corvus came Signum 1 and Signum 2, this one. And this guy's wearing a color plate right now because me and orange, it never seems to stop. But I didn't like the inside thumb keys. I didn't use them as much on Corvus. And I was like, this doesn't work. I'm gonna skip it. And since I had this space, I was like, well, thumb hole, obviously. Woo! You get all this fun stuff. And it is very useful on a travel board. But this usually goes with a computer. And when I've been carrying this lately, I have a computer. And then it sits more or less like this. And I just carry it around. So the thumb hole hasn't been doing me a lot of work lately. And he is right. It is just wasted real estate. So we will probably be bringing back some inside thumb keys in here and eliminating the thumb hole. There was one special use case for the thumb hole. Very, very special. Where I needed to be in a standing position and there wasn't a place to put my keyboard in the area that I was working. And I still needed the keyboard. So I took a bit of paracord and some rope and tied it around my waist through here. And it dangled at a very, very inappropriate level. And I just stood with my hands facing down at full rest, clacking away. So technically that use case can be covered by a single support right here that you can loop through. But yeah, so coming soon, thumb keys. Part of all that led me back to the, oh gosh, I'm off notes here. Yeah, there we go. Part of that led me back to, well, Corvus had other problems, and I think that those other problems turned into, well, it's probably this thumb thing. The thumb thing just got tossed by the wayside, so we'll be bringing that back. Let's see. So thumbs, right? we're being reminded that our thumbs are basically our most important modifier thingies, fingers, buttons. Whenever we press modifiers with our thumbs, we're able to do a lot more. This is possible on your keyboard. This inside thumb to hold that down, very possible, very doable. Alt just isn't as useful, but we'll get into that shortly. So we're trying to use our thumbs more because using your thumb from a key chording, C-H-O-R-D, chording perspective is good because these fingers work great. You can punt and peck and move them all you want. But when you start doing chording with these keys, holding down one key and then hitting another key, that's when things start getting a little funny in Hand Town and RSI-ville and Hand Pain Central. So what we want to do is move as many modifiers as we can to the thumb so that we hold as few keys as possible with our fingers. And on small boards like this, you need those modifiers. So that's why they've been down here as much as possible on the thumbs. And then even I figured out on this outer key to reclaim that outer key by hitting it with that portion. And you can do this on any 40%. So any programmable 40%. I'm not telling you got to buy something crazy. I'm telling you if you've already got it, you should be tweaking stuff and modifying things and trying to get your hands to feel better. And you never really notice that your hands don't feel good until you do something right. And you're like, man, I feel less bad. Less bad than I normally feel. So we have, so we're trying to get to our thumbs, right? And this whole time, I'm doing caps lock to control. I'm a big caps lock to control evangelist. You type and you hit this key, the key to the left of your pinky, the key to the left of the A key, the most prime real estate for your fingers is wasted by a caps lock key, which shouldn't exist. So we change that to control. That's easy. And we use control a lot. Well, why though? There's an excellent website called this Chinese Xahle, Xahlee, and it's xahlee.info. And he is an Emacs programmer, and he had some very nasty problems with repetitive stress injuries. Probably it's the dreaded Emacs pinky or the dreaded Emacs claw, holding down control in that weird position. So he's come up with all kinds of interesting ideas and has done a lot of work on ergonomics, and you should definitely give his website a check out if you are at all interested in ergonomics, which you might be because you're watching this video, or if you're interested in Emacs and using Emacs without killing your hands and destroying your life, which is also another thing. I'm trying to Emacs a little bit, and the short version is I'm going to Space Max because it's leader key based, and leader key just means that instead of pressing and holding a key or holding control, this is what they do. This is the claw. They hold that control like that, and it destroys their hands because they're doing this and this and this and these things, and they're hitting all these buttons at the same time on the same hand, and it's not good. But the leader key is space, hence Space Max. So when you hit this, when you hit space in an open mode, it opens a series of commands, and then you have the commands are associated with different letters. So window management is space WD to close a window or something. So you're hitting space WD instead of Control C Alt X D. That's all the holding. It's not fun. So Space Max, very cool. Still trying to learn it. It's still fiddly. It's still Emacs. It's still bloated. It's still slow, but it is very good at what it does. So just keep those things in mind. Oh, yes. So this palming thing, I thought I was a super genius and the first one to figure it out, this pressing that key with this portion of your knuckle, or I guess knuckle. But no, hunt around on his site and on Ja's website, and he talks about the palming. The palming is basically this for the control key, and that's kind of hard to do because of the sweep on a lot of these. Some mechanical keyboards have these raised up a little bit higher, but suffice to say, that was an effort that he came to and went past, working on trying to reduce the strain of holding these buttons. And these button layouts, they're not great. I still recommend that you do this if you're on a regular keyboard, that you hit control with this, because it's relatively easy. However, if you are going to do simple swaps and you do have a full keyboard like this again, and it's not modifiable, you can still tweak things. You can still move keys around with some applications. So depending on your OS, you can do lots of stuff, depending on, well, a lot of things. The ideal, obviously, is to just have a custom programmable keyboard that you program every single time, and wherever you take it, it's exactly the same, and you don't have to fight with the OS and say, are you tracking my keystrokes? When I held down my caps lock, did you read it as control for the first key press and not the second key press? I have to lift up and put down again. So it just simplifies everything. But this is the Alt to Control swap. This is where we're getting. Swapping those, putting this control on the inside, I use control way more than I use Alt. And when they started talking about that, I was like, well, shoot. All of my builds and my layouts put caps lock or control here, and Alt is down here on the thumb. Well, that obviously doesn't make any sense, because as I'm talking about all this and doing more research on it, we want to focus on our thumbs. Thumbs are what's important. So, pinkies. Yeah. We want to get away from the cording on these fingers. So if I'm holding control here, if I'm holding caps lock that is control, then I'm necessarily cording on any of these keys. So it was my realization that I need to change this lovely key to a control, and this one back to an Alt. And that one has not been fun. Normally I'm very quick on the uptake on a lot of these, but I've been doing caps lock to control for about 4 years. So it's been difficult muscle memory to break, which is not common for me, but whatever. It's the right thing to do, so I'm just going to do it. It does lead to really weird things in Emacs, because I still don't understand all the keystrokes. And when I hit Alt instead of Control, strange things happen. This also allows me to relearn some stuff on a full-size keyboard that I am trying so hard, the buckling spring, to use at work. Because we can swap these to be controls, and I'm leaving this caps lock up here as an Alt, or rather an escape. So this becomes an Alt. I'm just swapping control and Alt. And you can do these with registry edits on any Windows system. Any Linux system can do it pretty handily. Just look up changing keys or swapping keys. You can probably start with caps lock to control, because that's the most popular. It's going to show you the easiest script to find out how to do it. And once you find that, you can modify it for your purposes. I'm still going to try to find something and post it so that you can just click a download and start learning a slightly different keys combination that you can get better at. This also handles an issue that I've had with Alt Tab, which is my primary use for Alt. And on this system, on this layout, you hit Alt and then you hit Tab, and I wind up hitting it with this. And this motion, this twisting motion, not good. So when you put this Alt over here, instead of doing one of these, you wind up doing one of these. Or one of these. And that's much straighter. You have to pick up your wrists a little bit slower, but it's there. And it's definitely more ergonomic to do. So consider that. It's pretty easy to change this to an escape, or it can be a free key. You could use it for whatever you want, or whatever you use most. Because remember, we're trying to target the keys that we use the most and put them in the most convenient place possible. If you seriously use Alt more than Control, which would surprise me, but who knows, leave it here. If you want, you can swap these over here and just leave them be, so that you have a control over here. That's a little bit harder to get to, depending on your space layout. This gigantic, I can't stand this. You know, I was a big caps lock evangelist, caps lock to control evangelist, but I can't get over the gigantic space bar. Why? It's so much wasted real estate. And if you hold yours up to the light, you will see shine, you will see wear marks on 2 spots. Mostly just 1 spot, because everyone usually uses 1 thumb to hit spacebar, and I am just rambling at this point, so let's try to get back on track. So, target your most useful keys and move them to where they're most convenient for you. Software can do it. You don't need a fancy keyboard. You don't need one of these. But if you do have one, you're doing yourself a disservice by not programming it to be a little bit more ergonomic for you, to take advantage of that feature, to build tools that help you work faster or play faster. Who cares? Just do things faster. That's the way it works. It's the way it should be. Let's see. Also, hover typing. Yes, this is a thing that a programmer told me was the most ergonomic way, and she could do it just fine, but I could never do it. And things changed really when I got a proper ergonomic chair. I'm sitting straight up, like correct posture and all that. Soft chairs are terrible. Terrible for your posture. They wear you down, especially if you're sitting in them for more than like 5 hours. But, you know, nowadays sitting is the new, I don't know, cigarettes or something. I don't know how much of that I believe, but I do like standing. I do like the standing desk. I have messed around with it a few times, and it is, there we go, too early. Didn't get a lot of sleep. Hair is not there. It's crazy. The standing is cool, and I do kind of like it. There's a little bit more physical motion to it. You don't feel like you're kind of like, you don't like get into a rut. I don't know. It's more engaging. I think that's what it is. And it makes your brain work a little bit faster. It's more interesting. But hover typing from a properly engaged chair where you are allowed to get it to the point where your forearm is parallel to the ground, hover typing is way easier. Very nice. The only thing that you lose is while you're hovering, you don't get that drop it all the way down to hit that palm key. So I was thinking about that palm key, and I've been thinking about even these keys, these outer keys for a while, and the same on both sides, because they're kind of just in a very odd spot, and it's hard to reach them. You got to do one of these to reach it. And with that palm key, and with the knowledge that someone, I even found a report that someone who was pressing down their control with that portion of their knuckle, that they've been doing it for years and years and years and years and years. And what you practice, what you develop into a habit, you will do for years. To the point that he actually damaged the tendon that's right here. Right here. You're just constantly pressing it against a edged surface, and eventually wore it down and had some real bad pain on it. So that's part of why some of these keys are set up to have a different profile, so that they lean toward the finger. It's easier. It's like a spacebar flip thing. It seems like a fad. It's not. Flip your space bars. It's way better. It's more comfortable. It's less contact area. You don't have a point that you're jabbing your thumb into. It's a little bit more of a slope. And it's meant to reduce that focal point of pressure. Which, by the way, hover typing does, because you're not touching anything, so there is no pressure. Right, so hover typing is cool, but it kind of screws up the ability to palm stuff. And like I said, these keys were kind of red-headed stepchildren, so I was sitting there going, well, I want an extra key. I don't like adding to the matrix, so I'd like to take away from one somewhere. So we'll take away this key. We'll extend this into 2 keys to make it easier to palm. And then we'll turn this key and move it over here into the matrix. So, I mean, physically, logically, it'll still be, it doesn't matter. But you'll have an extra thumb key, and at the expense of this key, which is no one likes anyways. Get out of here, key. No one likes you. But it'll extend this and make it easier to palm down on it. And that's it's going to be a little bit more odd on this kind of build with the vertical stagger, because you can't, they're not right next to each other. It would drop one down and leave a gap or something, or I turn it at an angle or something, or out this way like that. I'm not sure. I'm going to find out. But that will lead to the Signum 3 segment, which I'll talk about shortly. So all of these cool things, how do we implement and test these interesting ideas? The double key here, the control, or whichever your most used modifier is, down to the thumb. This is very odd with the light, sorry. Down to the thumb. We're targeting, we want to use our thumbs as much as possible. And those are somewhat easy. Like I said, if you've got a regular board, you can go to, just Google around a little bit, and I'm going to try and post a link for you. You can move keys around. It's supported, and primarily because caps lock to control is so popular. And I don't want people to be developing, doing things slightly less damaging. It's better that it's not more damaging. That's good. This pinky control thing, that hurts more than this. But this still hurts. And if you're going to hurt yourself, why not hurt yourself as little as possible? So turning one of these into a control, whichever your most used key is, swapping it into this position is very good. This position is a little less preferred, but hey, while you're swapping keys around, why don't you take this outside control, this right control. No one likes right control. Get out of here, right control. And turn it into a Windows key or something. So you hold down the Windows key and then hit an arrow key, and it'll move. It'll stick your windows to the sides or whatever. You know, there's lots of cool stuff. There's lots of cool opportunities here. And everyone's just kind of like, it is what it is. It'll take as long as it takes. No. We work fast. Our time is important. So, there we go. Oh, yeah. And if you do have a 40%, whether it's a proper plank, running QMK, or something else, please start learning about the programming. I don't have one to program, and that is part of why that's part of why I prefer the hand-built boards, because they can use easy AVR, because it's very graphically simple. It's obvious, it's intuitive. And when I say the word compile to someone, what they hear is internet wizardry magic that they can't do. No matter how easy it is. I have plans to work on something to make generating that QMK file a little bit easier, and possibly host the compiling of it, so that you go to a website, have a nice little GUI interface that you click and change my key to that and do this, that, the other, and then hit go, and then you get back to a firmware, which leads to the next problem, which is loading that firmware onto that chipset. With Pro Micros, it's difficult. With Teensies, it's easy. That's kind of why I favor the Teensies, because I'm not doing this. I can compile from source. I'm a programmer. I don't have any problem with that. But when I make stuff so that other people can benefit from it. And I don't use easy AVR because it's easy for me. I use it because if someone else is interested in this board or that board or the other board or the boards that I make, that they can program it. I want them to be able to program it. I want you to make better tools for yourself. When you get into like machine shop work, the first thing they're probably going to have you do is make something. You make something and it's hard because you don't have the right tools for it. And then they're going to say, make a tool to make that easier. And then your brain just kind of does a backflip because you realize that you actually have the ability to make your own tools now so that you can make your workflow better. Well, you have that in the palm of your hand. You can do that today. You can do that with your laptop keyboard. You can do that with this guy. And you can get away with it on, let me touch it, you're making me touch it, a filthy, disgusting rubber dome keyboard. It's so mushy. It's so mushy and so creaky. Oh, you just want to bust it in half with your face. But that doesn't matter because it is the tool you're currently using and you can make it better. So do. Right. So we have that. Oh, yeah. So combining the outer keys, switching up these control and alt keys. That's been fun. It's hard to unlearn that, and that's weird for me, but it is. Putting this another thumb key in here is actually going to throw off this whole thumb cluster, which is weird because I'd been planning on, I'm designing a circuit board for it, primarily to keep the cost down, or to make it easier, really. But there's a slight problem with this build. It's a very slight problem, which I haven't fully tested, but I went to the Louisville. Got that? Keep Louisville Clackin'. There's a Louisville. Louisville if you're not from Kentucky. Louisville if you're from Kentucky. I went there and I was talking about the ergonomics of the Signum, and this like 6-foot everything guy came up and he's like, huh, and hunches way over and he's got like oven mitts and he's like, huh. And I'm like, yeah, it's perfectly ergonomically designed. And he's like, maybe for you. And I was like, oh yeah, my sample set is kind of small. So part of what I want to be able to do with that circuit board design is to take these rows, this vertical stagger that was so hard to mess around with, and break them up so that you can have the circuit boards and you can adjust the height as much as you want, and it'll still mount to the next one. You'll have to do a little bridge for it, but it'll still mount solid. So you can adjust these to your finger height. Thumb clusters. I'm still trying to figure this out because you want to be able to rotate them and move them lower, out, up. There's a lot more movement here than just a vertical stagger going a little bit higher or a little bit lower. So I'm trying to figure out thumb clusters, but it's probably going to be a pretty full redesign, which isn't going to be fun. Oh, who am I kidding? It's all fun. It's just hard to find the time for it. But I was also very interested in splitting it. And so let's just Signum 3. Signum 3. Yay, fanfare. Signum 3 is going to be, or at least the current plans for it are, first, a plico style hinge. It probably won't lock in position like this, but it will lock to the point that it's together, there's no external wires, and you can take this angle and adjust it. I also want it to be able to unhook and break apart, and then you'll have a TRS connector to plug into either side. I would love to do wireless. I don't have the electrical engineering chops at the moment. However, collaborations are really fun. So if you're out there, please help. Going to a QMK split build like the Let's Split PCB means probably going to Pro Micros, which also means making it a little bit more difficult. But I'm pretty well decided on this layout. Believe it or not, as much as caps lock and alt is messing me up, that change, this layout has been pretty static, and it's been changing for years and years and years and years and years. But it's been kind of the same. I think I'm ready to settle and say this is a good ergonomic layout. And once we do that, I can get keycaps printed. I know, it's amazing. It's improbable. But people want it. And I am not in charge of what the market dictates. The market is. So, features. It'll be this guy, but with a Plico style hinge. So like this, where you'll be able to adjust it. Part of what I didn't like about the Plico was this hinge has been very solid, but I don't know, it just feels like this motion, even with the lock on, I don't think I like it. So what it'll probably have is an integrated hinge that has a snap on it, so that when it gets to this position, there's a little lock on it. Either that or it attaches in some way, so that it is very solid, and you can feel like, if I do this, it's not a problem. And I don't feel like this is a problem, because this is kind of overbuilt, but I don't know, that was the thing that got me to switch to the Signum. So I'm going to follow that. Follow my heart. Don't follow your heart. Heart is deceitful. The ability to lock the hinge, yeah, and the TRS connector. I kind of want whatever the connector is, because if you go the QMK route with a serial connection between the two, you only need 3 connections. So with 3 connections, you can do a TRS connection in here, and then a small loop to another TRS connection in here, and then you're like, you can do whatever you want. It's just got a short wire, and the short wire is built into the case, so that when you close it, that wire is shrouded. And then if you want to go full split, you unplug that, plug in a different one to here and to here, or to here and to here, whichever, and split it apart and work normally. We are still going to maintain our vertical stagger because it's just better. I've gone back and forth. It's just better. And with the ability to customize it and move your finger heights up and down, it's way better. So that's the right way to do it. Let's see. Yeah, it'll probably use the Pro Micros, unfortunately. But we'll figure it out, because most people don't program their keyboards, and most people want their keycaps printed because most people don't want to program their keyboards. And that's okay, I guess. I don't like it, but I think you should get down and dirty and mess around with your stuff. Make your own tools, customize things, build, create, destroy. Ha! Capitalism. But I entertain the notion of shipping without firmware, just a blank board. And I was like, that would get them to write some firmware, and no, that wouldn't. People just wouldn't buy it. Or they'd call me. So those are the features that I want to build into Signum 3, and I want that to be a very solid ergonomic offering. I want it to implement everything that I've built up to. And it's going to be pretty dang cool. So I've rambled about keyboards for 30 minutes. I can't possibly imagine how large this video is, and I can't possibly imagine that you've made it this far. And if you have, then congratulations. My hat's off to you. My hat's off to you. I am going on vacation starting tomorrow after church, and then I'm gonna be playing around with some fun stuff. There won't be much room for keyboard design. However, I do have some people I'm collaborating with. There's a bug in here. And I can communicate with them whether I'm in Kentucky or California, so that's not a big deal. But lots of projects going on. I'm not sure where the time is going to come from to design this thing, but it's going to come from somewhere, because it always does. And that's cool. I guess this will just be a ergonomics design keyboard discussion thingy, because at 34 minutes I don't want to change topics right now, so I'm going to make another video. Thanks, I guess. Thanks. Seriously though, thanks. When someone sends me an email and they're like, hey, you really helped me out. Hey, thanks for doing this. Hey, your thoughts are very important. Your thoughts are very interesting. It still surprises me. This is a very, very strange, very esoteric hobby to build these things and make weird changes to it. And it's not something a lot of people do. And to know that there's interest in it and that people want more of it shows me that it's of value. It's of value to someone at least. So truly, thank you. Thank you.